Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, after 27 years, the 96 people who tragically lost their lives at Hillsborough and their families finally received the justice they were entitled to. I welcome the fact the Prime Minister has apologised for the actions of previous governments. I join him in paying tribute to all those families who've campaigned with such dignity, steadfastness and determination to get to the truth of what happened to their loved ones on that dreadful afternoon. I also pay a very warm tribute to my friends, the members for Liverpool Walton, Lee, Halton, Garston, Halewood and other MPs who've relentlessly campaigned with great difficulty over many years. I hope the whole House today will be united in demanding that all those involved in the lies, smears and cover-ups that have so bedevilled this whole inquiry will now be held to account. Last week, the Prime Minister told the House that he was going to put rocket boosters on his forced academisation proposals. This weekend, in the light of widespread unease, including amongst his own MPs, it seems the wheels are falling off the rocket boosters. And the government is considering a U-turn. Can the Prime Minister confirm whether or not the U-turn is being prepared for or not?
First of all, let me join the right honourable gentleman in praising those who campaigned so hard and so long to get justice for the victims of Hillsborough. This whole process took far too long, but I think it is right, and I pay tribute to the right honourable member for Lee, that we had that Jones report. We responded to the Jones report. I also want to mention the former Attorney General who took the case to the High Court for the government himself to argue for that vital second inquest. Turning to the issue of academies, I haven't yet met a rocket booster with a wheel on it, but I'm sure rocket science isn't really my subject, and I think apparently it's not his. I will repeat again, academies are raising standards in our schools, and I want a system where it's heads and teachers running schools, not bureaucrats.
Well, there wasn't much of an answer there, but so can the Prime Minister tell us whether he will? If the members opposite would be patient enough, they might hear the question I'm putting to the Prime Minister, which is another very simple one. Could he tell us whether he will bring forward legislation to force, against the wishes of good and outstanding schools, to become academies in the upcoming Queen's speech? Yes or no?
Obviously, I can't really preempt what's in the Queen's speech, but on this one example, I can help him out. We're going to have academies for all, and it'll be in the Queen's speech.
Mr. Speaker, we look forward to that, but there is still time for the U-turn, which I'm sure is at the back of the Prime Minister's mind. It's been reported that the government is considering allowing good local authorities to form multi-academy trusts. Ironically, this would actually give local authorities more responsibility for running schools than they have now, although the Prime Minister has previously suggested that local authorities are holding schools back. So why is this costly reorganisation of schools necessary for schools that are already good or outstanding? Why is it forcing it on them?
Well, as I said last week, and it's good, I like repeats on television, I'm very happy to have them in the House as well. As I said last week, outstanding schools have nothing to fear from becoming academies, and indeed have a lot to gain. And just because a school is outstanding or good doesn't mean it can't have further improvement. Not least what we want to see is outstanding schools helping other schools in their area, often by being part of an academy trust. Now, he raises the issue about local authorities, but if you... Two questions so far, two very clear answers. Third question, third clear answer coming, so simmer down. Perhaps if you could deal with the anti-Semites in your own party, we'd all be prepared to listen to you a bit more. Maybe we'll come on to that. Of course, There are lots of ways that schools can become academies. They can convert and become academies. They can be sponsored by an outside organisation. They can work with other schools in the area. They can look at working with the local authority. Those schools that want to go on using local authority services are free to do so. I'm very clear. Academies are great. Academies for all is a good policy. What we're now seeing from Labour, I sense, is they're now moving in favour of academy schools. Perhaps when he gets his feet, he could say, does he favour academies or not?
Jeremy Corbyn. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister will be aware that sometimes repeats on television get more viewers than the first time round. The chief executive of the largest academy chain in London, the Harris Academy, has warned that a far more fundamental thing that the Prime Minister should be worrying about, whether schools should become academies or not, is actually teacher shortages. The academies, Mr. Speaker, don't want this. Parents don't want it. Teachers don't want it. Governors don't want it. Conservative councils and MPs don't want it. Who actually does want this top-down reorganisation he's imposing on our education system?
OK. Question 4, answer 4, here it comes. He says who wants this? Well, let's start with Michael Wilshaw, the Chief Inspector of Schools. I don't know, I think someone quite worthwhile listening to. Academisation can lead to rapid improvements, and I firmly believe it's right to give more autonomy to the front line. OECD, shall we try? They've been in the news today. We won't get too controversial. The OECD, I view the trend towards academies as a very promising development in the UK, which used to have a rather prescriptive education system, so they support it. What about endless academy trusts who support it? Now, he asked another question, very keen for full answers. If you shout, you won't hear the answer. He asked about teacher shortages. The fact is, there are more school places and more teachers under this government than there were under Labour. Why? Because we've got a successful economy and we're putting it into our schools and our children's future.
Mr. Speaker, there are, of course, still record numbers of children in oversized classes and in supersized classes, and that is getting worse. And if he is looking for support for his academisation proposal, he might care to phone up his friends, the leaders of Hampshire, West Sussex and his own Oxfordshire County Council, who are deeply concerned and opposed by it. He might care to listen to Councillor Carter, the Conservative chair of the County Council's network, who says the change will lead to a poorer education system. So why is he pushing it through with so much opposition, so much concern and such a waste of money when we should be investing in teachers and schools, not top-down reorganisation?
Well, I'm glad he's quoting Conservative council leaders, and because they keep the council tax down and provide good services, I hope we'll see more of them in 10 days' time. Now, on teacher supply, just to be clear, 13,000 more teachers than 2010, to give a wholly accurate answer to his fourth question. Again he asked about who else would support academies. Let me quote Helena Mills of the Burnt Mill Academy Trust, because she said this: I used to be very sceptical and resistant to academy status. But during the process of developing the academy, I've been increasingly convinced this is the way forward. That is what more and more people are saying. That is why 1.3 million more children in good and outstanding schools. That is why almost 9 out of 10 converter academies are good or outstanding schools. We're very clear on this side of the House. We back aspiration, we back opportunity, we back investment in our schools. We want every child to get the best. It's Labour that want to hold back opportunity and have one size fits all.
Mr. Speaker, there seems to be a pattern developing here. The pattern is quite simply this. He has a health secretary that's imposing a contract on junior doctors against the wishes of patients and the public and the rest of the medical profession.
Yes.
He has an education secretary imposing yet another Tory top-down reorganisation that nobody wants. When will his government show some respect and listen to the public, parents and patients, and indeed professionals who've given their lives to public service in education and health, and change his ways, listen to them and trust other people to run services rather than imposing things from above?
I tell him the pattern that is developing. We can see 1.9 million more people being treated in our health service. We can see 1.3 million more children in good or outstanding schools. That's the pattern that's developing. A strong economy, investing into our public services. The other pattern that I've noticed, standing at this dispatch box, is I'm on my 5th Labour leader, and if he carries on like this, I'll soon be on my 6th.